Cyberpunk 2077 is by far one of the most anticipated game launches of the year. I personally am extremely excited about it, and I have high hopes for it like many other people. But from the beginning, since we heard about what the content would entail in the game, there has been a lot of worry about censorship. Could this game be toned down because of the extreme nudity, violence, and gore? Because we see how many companies want games to have lower ratings so it can sell to a larger array of players. You have companies like Sony who say, you better censor the content in your game or we won't allow this game on our platform. But to top it all off, you also have specific countries which won't allow the level of nudity, violence, and gore that this game is going to have. And unfortunately, we have heard that this game is going to be censored in Japan, but surprisingly, it is not going to be censored in Australia. Cyberpunk 2077 to be heavily censored in Japan. Cyberpunk 2077 will be pretty heavily censored upon its release in Japan, according to Press Start. The Japanese version of CD Projekt Red's RPG likely won't have the genital customization Games Radar Sam Loveridge saw in her hands-on because there won't be any genitals, at least not visibly. According to Press Start, naked male and female characters will all be donning underwear in the Japanese version, and sexually explicit content will be revised. Depictions of genitals are getting the chop as well. Any billboards or graffiti in the shape of genitals will be absent. So if you live in Japan and were looking forward to meticulously crafting your characters' private parts or taking some screen grabs of dick art in Cyberpunk 2077, my sincerest condolences. I know that the feature of customizing your genitalia and stuff, I know that to a lot of us it sounds silly, but to some people it is a good option to have in the game. It's just more customization. I'm always for customization options in game, even if this is a little bit of a specific type of customization. However, the boobs and butts aren't the only thing getting censored in the Japanese version of Cyberpunk 2077. There will also be selective revisions of limb severing and gore like exposed guts. It's unclear if those gore edits will extend beyond loss of limb and exposed entrails, but at the time of writing this, those are the only concrete examples of censored violence in Japan's version of the game. It's interesting to note that the Australian version of the game will not be censored. This is extremely surprising. Australia being particularly touchy with explicit games and will be released later this year unedited in its purest naked form. It will be rated R18+, which is a step beyond the MA15 restriction rating, but falls just before the X18+ rating that deems it pornographic in nature. Side note, I've done quite a few videos on the Australian rating system and their refused classification system, and games can't get X18+. The highest rating that a game can get is R18+, so I don't know if this writer just didn't research this properly, but it's really not that hard to look up. Sorry. But the article finishes off with, for reference, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt was rated R18+ as well for high impact violence and sex. This is extremely disappointing to hear that Cyberpunk 2077 will be heavily censored in Japan. This doesn't have to do with just censoring games, it's more about following this place's strict laws around nudity and adult content, which mostly apply to the porn industry. It does sound like they're talking about, removing some of the gore, which is, again, in line with what we've heard happening in Japan. It's disappointing to hear, definitely, but it's not unheard of. I mean, look at how they've treated Mortal Kombat games in the past. In Japan, this is dealing with the government regulations and not a self-imposed regulatory board or internalized ethics committee in a company. In the United States, with adult content, the only laws regulating it fall around a rating system. They never say that you can't have this type of content in a game. They just say that if you put it in there, it's going to get a higher rating. This isn't an internal censorship from CD Projekt Red like in the case cases of Square Enix and Final Fantasy or Sony of America. We can all be unhappy with CD Projekt Red for doing this, but we know that when the censorship comes down because of government regulations, it's unfortunate, but a company has to make a choice. They either change the content in the game or the game gets banned and then some people can't play it. I wish that it wasn't this way and that more countries treated content more like the United States does, but unfortunately that's just not the way that it is for now. In the end, it's obviously up to you as a consumer how you react to CD Projekt Red's decision on how they handle the content in the game in that region, but I personally just hate to see anyone bend the knee. But that is all that I had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you found this video important and informative, please make sure to give it a like and share it. And of course, if you did not, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.